Hello, we are talking with Miss Molly Wolf. Well, go ahead and tell us what you do, madam.
I am the founder and curator of the Sexuality Archives at Widener University. And in addition to that, I'm the Sexuality reference librarian and a regular reference librarian.
Wow, all kinds of library science.
Yes.
And you were telling us earlier when you were telling us about the archives that you are uniquely qualified for your job.
I am. I have a master's degree in library and information science, and I have a master's degree in education with a specialization in sexuality. So I have 2 master's degrees in my chosen field, and I did an informal survey of a listserv of academic librarians, and there isn't anybody else who holds the same qualifications that I do. They might be out there, I guess maybe they're not on the listserv. So I say I am uniquely qualified for my position.
The only one who can be in your position. Let's see. Yes, that's what I was going to ask. How did the Sexuality Archives start?
I always describe it as a happy accident. We had, a few years ago, Dr. Staten, the founder of the program when it was at Penn, had some friends who were gynecologists and sexologists, and they retired. And of course, over their lifetime, they had amassed this wonderful collection of books and pamphlets and videos and stuff like that. And they were looking to downsize, and they were looking to donate this collection. And so Dr. Staten asked me if I would be interested, and I said yes. And so 35-gallon Rubbermaid totes full of things came from West Virginia. And as I started to go through them, I tried to put as much in the circulating collection of the library as possible. That way the most people have access to it. And while I was going through this, I started to come across things that didn't fit in the collection. Pamphlets, really old books that clearly had dated information, medical texts from 1908. We don't diagnose dropsy anymore, so it's not something that I would put in the collection. But they were really great pieces of history about sexology and sex education. And so I started to hoard them. And they started to crowd me out of my office. And as more people started to donate things to the library, this collection of hoarded materials grew and grew and grew. And one day I looked at it and thought, wow, I have an archive here. And so I talked to the library director and said, I want to found this. I want to create this entity, this archive. And he said, go for it. And so I did.
There you go. So it's all you in the history books. When people look back on this year, they'll go, and that's when it started.
Absolutely. I say it is my baby. Aside from my actual baby, this is my second baby. Yeah, and it was just sort of a labor of love.
Very cool. Now, I think I know what you're going to say to this, but what is your favorite item in the archive? Or we'll give you top 3, because there are lots of really cool things.
Good. I have 3, so that's
3 exactly.
I have 3 exactly. I have, or I should say we have, the original version of Our Bodies Ourselves. It's called Women and Their Bodies. It was by the Boston Women's Health Collective. It was 75 cents. It's on newsprint. It's stapled together, and it's wonderful to see. The powerhouse that is Our Bodies Ourselves, how it started, sort of its humble beginnings. I also have a signed first edition of a text called The Human Pony. So it is a manual, if you're into pony play, it is a manual for how to train and care for your pony, and different pieces of tack and different gaits and different ways to love your pony, and it's just fascinating. It's a beautiful, glossy book. It's a showstopper, truthfully. And then my third favorite thing is it's a little paperback book that was, I think it was published in the 70s after Roe versus Wade, and that's a really important piece of information to have. And it is a manual on how to give yourself an abortion.
Yeah, that was scary looking when you showed it to us.
Which is, I mean, it's not the topic that I think is so fascinating. What I think is so fascinating is that after abortion was legal, there was still a need for this DIY information, because although it was legal, it was not necessarily available. And there were still consent laws on the books. You had to have your father's permission, your parents' permission, your husband's permission, which was, as we know today, not possible for some women to get. So they had to take matters into their own hands. And just, as a cultural
Literally.
indicator, I think that's fascinating.
It is. It really is. I was wrong. I thought you were going to say the elephant that gives birth.
Oh, well, I do like Bertha.
Yeah.
I do like her, but
She was pretty cool. All right. Well, that is all. I do have one more thing. Tell people how they can donate if they want to get rid of some stuff that they have.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. I take donations of just about anything, and we will give them a loving home and curate them. So you can contact me directly. It's Sexuality Archives at mail.widener.edu is my email address. The Sexuality Archives phone number is 610-499-4075. We have a website, which I do not remember the address of, but if you go to widener.edu, I think it's widener.edu/Sexuality Archives. But if you Google Widener University Sexuality Archives, you will find me. And then if you're local, I can pick it up. If you're not local, you can mail it to me, and that's pretty much how that goes.
All right. Well, thank you for talking with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.